Possibilities are all around us. Everywhere we look, we see opportunity. We see potential in unexpected places. And when we share our knowledge, vision, and connections, we turn great ideas into action. In communities all around the world that we call home. Like transforming an old bus to feed hungry children, or providing life-saving equipment to those who need it most. From fighting disease to rebuilding schools, together we can make real change happen. We are Rotary. We are people of action. Get involved today at rotarygbi.org.
With over 1 million members, we know what people can do when they come together. We are Rotary. We are people of action. Find out more at rotary.org/action.
Hi, I'm Andrew, and I'm a member of Rotary, and we're here to figure out if people actually know what Rotary is. Tell me, what is Rotary?
A rotary phone?
No.
Chicken.
It's not a rotary phone or a rotisserie chicken.
Tell me, what is Rotary?
Is it when you get a document stamp?
You've been rotarized.
Let me ask you this. What do you think of when you hear Rotary?
Well, I'll tell you what I think. You go and you all over, and then your toilet gets clogged, so then you have to call the rooter guy.
Do you know what Rotary is?
Is it like a club?
Yes, it's like a club. Do you know what kind of club?
I picture a bunch of old stuffy men sitting around smoking cigars, drinking scotch.
They're ready for you.
Now let's ask some actual Rotarians what Rotary truly is.
When I first moved to the area, I didn't know a lot of people, and I didn't have many friends. But then, when I joined Rotary, I gained friends, a community, and even a family.
To me, Rotary is about being part of our community. Rotary has contributed over $500,000 to places like our local zoo.
It's things like this playground. There was nothing here before. And now, it's something everyone can enjoy.
My favorite part of Rotary is learning something new every week, straight from the top leaders in our community. I go to Rotary feeling stressed out from work and leave feeling energized and empowered.
Rotary is about impact on a local, national, and global scale. Like this ballpark for children with special needs. And helping new Americans learn English in this classroom. Oh yeah, and did I mention that Rotary is working around the world on thousands of projects, such as eradicating polio and providing clean drinking water for millions of people. Rotary is where friends, neighbors, and problem solvers share ideas, join leaders, and take action to create lasting change.
Go Rotary!
We are this close.
This close to making history.
This close.
We're this close, this close. We are this close.
We are this close.
This close.
This close to changing the world.
We are this close to making sure no child suffers a crippling disease ever again.
We are this close to making history.
We are this close to ending polio. We're this close to ending polio. We're this close.
This close. This close to ending polio.
This close.
We are this close to ending polio. All you need is you.
All we need is you.
All we need is you. Is you.
All we need is you.
This close. If we don't act now, we may lose this chance forever. Help Rotary make history at endpolio.org.
This is a story of historic progress, a story that doesn't exist without you. Our unifying effort in 3 decades of action demonstrates our commitment and endurance. And our progress thus far shows that a polio-free world is achievable. Individuals, clubs, partners, and governments share a collective vision to improve the health of every single child. We've eliminated polio in some of the most difficult places, overcoming obstacles and navigating complex issues. Our successes prove that polio will be eradicated, and while ending a global disease is not easy, as Rotary, we don't give up. We'll continue our fight until each child is protected. This isn't possible without you. So stay involved, keep pushing forward, engage your clubs and communities. Start a social media conversation and increase visibility on the importance of this global effort. Hold events and fundraisers on World Polio Day and throughout the year. Advocate to governments about the importance of supporting polio eradication. Make a contribution and invest in one of the largest health initiatives ever. Be a character in our story. Be the solution to our challenge. It's because of each and every one of you that we will improve our future by making polio a disease of the past. Eradication is possible. So let's keep our promise.
Meet David. David has been thinking about joining his local Rotary Club, but he's got some reservations. David's got questions like, is Rotary membership right for me? Or do I even have time to be a Rotarian? Let's explore the top 5 Rotary membership myths exposed. Myth number 1, Rotary is only for business networking. While Rotary was in fact founded as a professional group, its purpose has always been centered on service to the community and in fact the world. Both the personal and professional contacts that you will undoubtedly make are just a wonderful side benefit of joining Rotary. Myth number 2, Rotary is just an old boys club. There was a day when Rotary was comprised of just local businessmen, but that was long ago. Here's the bottom line. We're simply looking for high-character men and women in our community that want to serve. Myth number 3, Rotary is expensive. Actually, Rotary membership fees vary from club to club, community to community. Some are as little as mere dollars per month. Myth number 4, if I can't make the meetings, I can't be in Rotary. Rotary is about serving. If you want to help us serve the community, but just can't get to regular meetings, your local club will absolutely find a way for you to participate. Myth number 5, I just don't have time to be a Rotarian. Did you or does your business have 2 hours per month to contribute to the community? We can show you some reasonable goals and examples of how to get yourself involved in Rotary inside of your busy schedule. So you see, David did have some concerns about joining Rotary until he heard the whole story. Don't let these myths stand in your way. Start your Rotary journey of service right now, because the world needs Rotary, and Rotary needs you.
Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians and guests, and welcome to the second instalment of Infinite Possibilities, Women in Rotary, presented by District 6960 and co-sponsored by Rotary Zones 33 and 34. I am Darrell Keyes, District Governor of District 6960, which represents all of Southwest Florida. Our Rotary International theme for the year is Rotary Opens Opportunities, and we hope that by presenting this seminar series, you will learn about this wonderful organisation and find the myriad of opportunities available to you. In July, Dr. Sylvia Whitlock, the first female Rotary Club president, was our first presenter. That session focused on her journey, from joining Rotary before women were allowed to the Supreme Court decision to open Rotary's doors to women, and her leadership throughout the last 38 years. As we said to Sylvia in July, we stand on your shoulders with gratitude for paving the way for women. Zones 33 and 34 enjoy a unique situation where we have two sitting directors. Last month, Rotary International Director Stephanie Urchik was our host, and today we are very pleased to have Rotary International Director Peter Kyle join us as host. And we are equally pleased to welcome past District Governor Vanessa Irvin as co-host. Let's learn just a little about Peter Kyle. Peter was born and raised in New Zealand. That's why, like me, he has a funny accent. He has degrees in law and economics from Victoria University of Wellington and was awarded a Rotary Foundation Ambassadorial Scholarship to pursue postgraduate studies in law at the University of Virginia in 1973. Returning to New Zealand, he was admitted to partnership in one of the country's leading corporate law firms, eventually moving to Washington, D.C. to work for the World Bank, and he retired there in 2009. Peter was inducted into the Rotary Club of Wellington North, New Zealand in 1976 and has served in a variety of leadership positions in Rotary clubs in Manila, Auckland, and Capitol Hill, Washington, D.C. He served as the governor of District 7620 in 2013-14. Peter has been actively involved with many Rotary programs, including alumni affairs, Rotary Peace Centres, the Joint Partnership Committee, and water and sanitation. He has also been a Rotary International President's Representative, Council and Legislation Delegate, and International Assembly Trainer. Peter has served as the Dean of the Rotary International Representative Network, the group of Rotarians who oversee Rotary's relationships with the United Nations and other international organisations. He is currently on the Rotary International Board of Directors and the Executive Committee and chairs the Rotary International Constitution and Bylaws Committee. Peter is a major donor, a Paul Harris Society member, and all members of his family are Paul Harris Fellows. Peter and Margaret live on the West River, south of Annapolis, Maryland, USA, in a home designed by Margaret and close to their 2 children and 1 grandson. Welcome, Peter Kyle.
Thank you, Governor Darrell, and welcome to the 743 participants who have joined us today for another outstanding presentation about the role of women in Rotary. If you joined us in July, you learned from Dr. Sylvia Whitlock that Rotary was a men-only club until the Rotary Club of Duarte inducted women and took a stance, which was confirmed by the Supreme Court in 1987. Since that time, Rotary has been inducting women into our organization, and we are all much the better for it. Women have strengthened our clubs, bringing new perspectives, a tremendous work ethic, and a commitment to our communities, both local and global. And we're excited that our first female president has been selected. Jennifer Jones will serve as Rotary International President in the year 2022-2023, first in our 115-year history. However, we still have clubs that are male only. As of today, approximately 15% of clubs worldwide still do not have women members. 3 regions of the world, Latin America, the United Kingdom, and Africa, Middle East all have, on average, greater than 30% female membership. The United States, Canada, and the Caribbean combined, as well as Australia and New Zealand, and Central and Southeast Asia, have around 28% of female membership, while Europe, India, and Japan have less than 20% female membership. We know we can do better, and we are committed to having our clubs reflect the communities in which they reside. Our speaker today, Jenny Stotts, is a millennial dynamo who took matters into her own hands when she made the decision to create a club that represented the community where she lives. Jenny currently serves as the membership chair of Rotary District 6690. She is a charter member of the Rotary Club of Athens Sunrise. Her favorite Rotary activities include Ryla and Paddle for Polio Plus, an annual event featuring kayaks. She developed and is leading a large-scale service event called The Big Project, which benefits her hometown by bringing together more than a dozen Rotary, Kiwanis, Lions, and Civitan clubs, which she describes as her dream project. Jenny is the executive director of the Athens Court-Appointed Special Advocate and Guardians Ad Litem, or CASA GAL for short, and the regional coordinator of Southeast Ohio CASA. She is a licensed social worker, a trauma specialist, and a trained forensic interviewer. She has devoted her career to serving foster children. This work is near and dear to her heart, as she was adopted from the Ohio child welfare system as a child and grew up in a loving foster home. She and her husband Jordan, also a Rotarian, continue the tradition, building their family through adoption as well. Jenny was recently recognized in her community and region as the Young Professional of the Year, Community Leader of the Year, and Ohio University's 5 Under 35 featured alumni. She serves as the chair of the federally mandated Child Welfare Review Panel on Permanency and was elected to the National Leadership Council for CASA. In addition to Rotary, Jenny volunteers her time with the Make-A-Wish Foundation and the Child Conservation League. She describes herself simply as mother, wife, friend, social worker, Rotarian, and troublemaking millennial. Please join me in welcoming Rotarian and troublemaking millennial, Jenny Stotts.
Well, thank you, Peter, and thank you everyone for joining today. I'm really glad to be a part of this and in such amazing company in this series. And as I was listening to Dr. Sylvia Whitlock speak during last month's edition of the Infinite Possibilities series, I found myself ruminating over this appreciation and really gratitude that I feel for people who have ever dared to speak up for what is right. And it got me thinking about all the times in my life when I've ever felt disappointed in myself. And there are many. I'm human after all. And we humans, we are as fragile as we are strong. But those times when I've really let myself down always seem to be the times when I didn't speak up, or when I, maybe didn't speak up when I should have, either for myself or for someone else, or when I wasn't quite able to examine my own mistakes through a constructive or learning type of lens. And it always makes me wonder about how my silence, either in the wake of my own mistakes or when I've observed a wrong, but how that silence can be hurtful. I'm grateful for people like Dr. Whitlock and other leaders who have refused to be silent and who have paved the way for someone like me to have an opportunity to serve through Rotary. The Supreme Court decision that prohibited exclusion based on gender was decided the very year that I was born. So just to think about that, how much history can evolve in a single lifetime. And what an incredible thing Dr. Whitlock and her colleagues did. But I think that decision did more than just grant women the right to join, but rather it began this momentum for women like me to come along some 30 or so years later and have a place to share ideas and to share dreams, but also to find a platform to lead. I love Rotary. I love the people in it. I love the work that we do. I love the friendships that I've formed, and I believe in it. I began in Rotary in 2013, and I joined for the same reasons that many of you probably did. Someone asked me to. It's a way to connect with the community, and I really enjoyed getting involved in all of the service projects that my Rotary Club was involved in. But for me, Rotary felt a little bit deeper. Rotary kind of felt like the answer to some question that I didn't know I had. And I've spent a lot of time over the last couple of years really unpacking that feeling so that I could understand it more. For my entire life, I felt this responsibility, this duty even, to give care, to care for others, to volunteer, to serve. I felt that that was my responsibility. And one thing that I've learned over the years as I've really looked at this and tried to understand where this urge comes from is that I think it's rooted in my childhood, actually. You see, I happened to have been born to two people who couldn't or wouldn't raise me. And consequently, I was surrendered into our state's child welfare system. And so I was later adopted, and my parents have continued to serve as foster parents both before and after they adopted me. And in fact, they continue to do that today. So growing up this way and seeing firsthand and personally how different a person's life can be based on the decisions and the behavior of someone else, it grew in me this feeling of obligation to make good use of the chances and the opportunities that I've had. Now, I share this story with you today because Rotary became that opportunity for me to give and serve in the way that I wanted to and that I needed to. This experience in Rotary is in line with the type of person that I want to be and the goals that I've set for myself. It's what I lovingly call Rotary Happy. And so Rotary Happy is just my silly way of summing up how I feel about our organization, but also about myself for being a part of it. I can carry out my life's mission through Rotary. It's become a part of who I am, really. Now, why the roads that bring us to Rotary are different, I hope that each of us here in this conversation today takes some time to think about what brought you to Rotary and what it means to you. That's all Rotary Happy is. It's a positive and impactful experience that fulfills you in some way. And so that's why when Rotary got a little tough for me, I didn't give up. Some of my earliest experiences in Rotary involved many instances where I wasn't happy at all, in fact. My first club was energetic and hardworking, and I formed what I hope are lifelong friendships because of that club. But that club, in my opinion, was systemically broken. That club had over time given way to toxic dynamics and bullying. It was a club that did great work and was full of some pretty great people. And maybe that's why I didn't realize at first that there was this undercurrent of tension. I certainly felt welcomed into the organization when I joined. I felt immediately pulled in fact. I felt immediately like I was part of that crew. I can't really say how the trouble began or how it developed because I think it was there long before I came along. But how I saw it manifest was in things like unwritten rules about who's in charge of this or that project. I saw it manifest as passive aggression. I saw it manifest as unchecked commentary about how members, particularly female members, looked or behaved. I saw it manifest as this informal points keeping system of who was contributing more or less to the work. I found myself on the receiving end of emails and messages about other people. I sometimes felt as if I were being manipulated almost. I found myself blatantly ignored during meetings once I had spoken up about how I was feeling. And at times, as a woman, as a young woman, I didn't even have a sense of basic safety or respect. My stomach churned as I drove to the weekly meeting, but it churns even more at the thought of missing one, for fear of what might be said of my absence. And that's not how Rotary is supposed to make you feel. Eventually, of course, I had reached a little bit of a breaking point, and I decided that I wasn't going to be a part of that club anymore. And I wasn't alone in that. And that was the springtime. It was actually a March when I attended my final meeting with that club. And it was exactly 1 week later that I met up with some former members, a few of us, and we were just commiserating and supporting one another over a cup of coffee. We continued to meet each week casually, and we were joined by more former members and even some people who had never been in Rotary before. And over the next few weeks, that informal group grew and grew and grew. And it grew so much that a few weeks later, or a few months later, we did something that I hadn't expected or planned on when I left my final club meeting back in March. We made it official, and we chartered a brand new club. Now, it's a fun thing to build a Rotary club. The sky's the limit, really. One thing I'm really proud of is that we, as the chartering members of our new club, worked really, really hard to learn from our experiences. I remember this early conversation, actually, where we sort of mentally exhaled almost and said, we're not going to focus on a single person or a group of people as the reason that all of this has happened. Instead, we need to examine the system and the structure of that club and determine where it was most vulnerable to those toxic dynamics, and then work hard, work together to build a club that would hopefully safeguard that against it as best we could. We were focused on creating something wonderful for our community, because really, Rotary clubs don't belong to us as members. They don't belong to club presidents. They don't belong to districts, and I don't even think they belong to Rotary International. I think Rotary clubs belong to the communities that they serve. And we have a responsibility to serve and reflect our communities well. I was honored to get to serve as our club's second president. And when I first stood before that group in the little back room of a local coffee shop where we meet each week, I stood before 43 members. And oh gosh, I was excited. But I was also a little intimidated to take the ball from the leader who had served before me and hopefully continue his good work. Now, over the course of that year, I excitedly got to welcome 27 new members into our little club that could. And we've continued to grow in the years since. But I'm often asked what we did to gain so many new members in such a short time. What recruitment efforts did we deploy? The answer is none of the above. We did not launch a recruitment campaign or run any kind of specials or membership specials. We focused on creating a good membership experience. You see, when you're excited about something and you see the value in it, you really just can't help but share it with others. We're programmed that way. It's part of how we connect human to human. We want to invite them into our good experiences. And that's what Rotary Happy is. It's being so enthusiastic and so fulfilled and so at home with something that you want to share it with everyone you care about. So we built a club that values engagement, a club that's alive with a spirit of friendship, but also one that's constantly changing and growing as new people with new ideas join. And I feel really fortunate to have found a club and a district where my entire family can participate in this experience with me. My Rotary Club is not perfect. We have certainly stumbled our way through some hurdles. We are always learning. And while I think our club is fun and dynamic, I don't think it's particularly groundbreaking. Yes, we have a majority female membership, and we have a majority female leadership. And yes, our club is probably more youthful than most. And yes, we are certainly an affordable and a very flexible club. And yes, the rumors are true. We do bristle at things like attendance and generally any type of requirement or traditional rule. But we continue many cornerstones of Rotary tradition. We meet every week. We complete typical service projects. We recite the Pledge of Allegiance and the four-way test at every meeting. I really look forward to the day when female leadership and inclusion and diversity are no longer groundbreaking or novel concepts for Rotary clubs, when it's just the way that it is, because it's the way it should be. And I look forward to this not just for Rotary, but for all organizations across the world. Now, during that year as president, my favorite thing to do was to meet individually with our members to find out why they joined and certainly why they had stayed. Service and people. People join and people stay in Rotary because of the good they can do and the people they serve alongside. It's certainly why I've stayed in Rotary. Rotary is how I connect and how I serve. Rotary is the opportunity that I just can't ignore. It's how I can do my part in making the world better. One thing I learned from those conversations with those members is that we are not asking people to join a club. We are inviting them to experience Rotary with us. So how dare we allow things like discrimination and harassment and exclusion and pseudo-tradition get in the way of everyone having the experience that they deserve? Everyone deserves to carve out their own bit of Rotary happy. And frankly, the world deserves it too. Because we do our best work, our very important work, when the people of our organization are engaged and when they find meaning and joy in the task at hand. So how dare we not be willing to listen and learn and change and grow? My request to each of you is to dare to be bold, to dare to speak up. I'll never forget, and I'll never take for granted the women who have shared similar experiences as me, but also the men who refuse to stay silent about it. I'm excited for the opportunities that we have to grow and strengthen Rotary by continuing to welcome more and more women into our organization, but also as we embrace the work that's left for us to do to make our organization as diverse and as inclusive as it can be. And I think that's a labor of love that should never end. We should always be moving forward. And it's certainly not lost on me that as a cisgendered middle-class white woman, I have opportunities to be heard. But I also think I have opportunities and responsibilities to learn and to demand that others be heard too. I think we all have our part to play in our own ways. Now, I've spent a little time sharing my story with you in my road to Rotary, but it's just one person's story, one person's perspective. Commit to listening to as many people as you can. As I said earlier, we all deserve to be Rotary happy. So as I start to wrap up, I have a challenge, yes, a challenge to issue to everyone listening today. I challenge you to spend time thinking about your own Rotary happy or your own Rotary story. And it's probably not going to look like mine, nor should it. What does this great organization mean to you? And what good can you accomplish through it? And I challenge you to share that with someone else. Tell them about your experiences in Rotary. And finally, I challenge you to look to the members to the right and to the left of you. Are they Rotary happy? How do you know? When the person beside you doesn't seem to be having a positive or a meaningful experience, and this applies in Rotary and beyond, ask why and be open to their answer. Listen without defensiveness and be a part of building Rotary happy for everyone, because we deserve it, you deserve it, and the world certainly deserves us to continue building our organization. Thank you so much for listening today, and I look forward to chatting and hearing your questions.
Thank you, Jenny. That was a great presentation, and we have several questions. But first, for audience members, as a reminder, please put your questions in the Q&A box using the button on your screen. So let's go to the first question. How does your current club interact with your former club?
Well, that's a very interesting question. And the answer is we don't. And we don't because that old club no longer exists.
Very good. So why don't we move on? How could a traditional club rethink and change its culture to be more attractive?
I think, you know, when we use the term culture and we talk about that in the context of Rotary clubs, I think what we're really talking about are member experiences and so I think really looking inward at the experience that we're offering to our members. And I think this applies to organizations beyond just Rotary, but really looking at the experience that we're offering and is it fulfilling and is it engaging? And I think if we listen to our members and we be responsive to what they need and want, I think a lot of that evolution probably happens somewhat organically. So I think for those of us that are in leadership positions at any level, we need to be really open to listening and being responsive to what we're hearing.
Interesting. So what kind of member experiences did your club provide?
In the club that we've built, I think that we have built a club that has a really wonderful spirit of camaraderie. I also think that our club is really dedicated to engaging every member in service. So we have usually more than one service project going on and inviting anyone who has an idea and has some energy around an idea to lead that project or to lead that initiative or to introduce that concept to our club. So I think it's, our club, the way that it is right now is not the way that it looked a year ago, not the way it looked a couple of years ago when I was president, and not the way it looked in 2016 when we were forming it. So I think, being nimble in that way is how we've been able to adapt, because our club changes every time someone new joins because they bring their perspective and their ideas and their energy. So I think being open to that and being willing to promote that is one of the things that I think is really special about our club, and one of the things that leaves me feeling really fulfilled by it.
Okay, so how can a club with older members attract younger members?
I think that there's a lot of value to having multi-generational Rotary clubs. I think my club is certainly a multi-generational Rotary club. And I think it's a matter of honoring and respecting what every person, regardless of age or gender or anything else, honoring and respecting what they have to bring, their expertise, their skill, their energy, and bringing that to the table. So I think being open to that, being welcoming to that, trying to avoid those disparaging jokes that sometimes come about when we're a little uncomfortable, when we're in rooms with people who aren't quite like us or maybe have a different perspective. So I think remembering to be gracious and remembering to be really open and find the value in it, find the value in, what someone who's been in Rotary for 20 or 30 years has to offer, and how they can contribute, but also looking to the person who's, maybe still in their 20s or their 30s and what they have to bring to the table and offer, and honoring and respecting all of those perspectives is a good place to start. But I think that I would love to see all clubs being really multi-generational, not necessarily having young clubs or, clubs that fit into a certain mold, but really having clubs where everyone brings value and everyone has something to contribute.
Jenny, we've had a number of questions that all are around the same topic, which is, what are clubs doing in response to COVID-19 that you would recommend?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of energy around that. In my district, I've been working hard to cultivate all of those great ideas and great projects that our 59 clubs are doing, and then sharing those, particularly if they can be replicated. So a few of my favorites, though, are I've seen some pop-up food pantries that clubs have organized, and of course, socially distanced and masked, but pop-up food pantries to address hunger. I know a lot of clubs and districts have been doing an amazing job of supporting the infrastructure and the organizations that already exist and are providing for basic needs, which I think is a great thing that we can do. If we know that there is a system of food pantries, or if we know that there's a system of service delivery organizations sometimes our responsibility is to support them and help them be successful in their area of expertise. So I think a lot of Rotary members are hearing that call and are springing to action around that. I've also, one thing that my club did that I thought was really fun and got us out in the community a little bit is a postcard project where we connected with people through various referral avenues. But we connected with people who were, for whatever reason, self-isolating because of their vulnerability to COVID-19. So doing things like grocery shopping or running errands or even yard work might have been more difficult for them to manage. So we sent them a postcard offering services, offering to run an errand for them, and they got connected with one of our members. And then they could reach back out to the member and, you know, move on with that, whatever it was that they needed. So our members have delivered groceries, you know, ran to the pharmacy, even did some yard work. My kids and I went and did some yard work for one of the people that we supported through that. So those are some of my favorite projects. But I think one piece of advice I would give too, as someone who works in the social services sector professionally, is to connect with some of your existing partners, because just like we as Rotary are trying to think of how we can adapt and be nimble and be responsive to what our communities need, the organizations that provide those direct services are doing that work too, are thinking that way too. So reaching out to those existing partnerships that you have in the community and offering to get creative with them and work alongside them is really beneficial. I know in my work, that's one thing I've really appreciated about our local service organizations, really reaching out to us and asking what we need, how they could support us. So I think, you know, being willing to get creative and being willing to build on ideas and be innovative in what we're doing and being, you know, being a little maybe out of the box. I think at this point, there is no box left. I think we're just all trying to respond as new information comes about. So those are a few of my favorite ones, but I know that that's just the kind of beginning. I know that there's clubs out there and districts out there that have done some amazing stuff.
Jenny, we've got an interesting question from a woman in the audience who's identified herself as joining an all-male club with her first meeting next week. And she's asking if you have any advice.
Oh, I think I might need advice from you, whoever the person is that submitted that question. I think, you know, I think that's awesome. That's wonderful that you're stepping into that situation. I think being open-minded on both ends is useful, and considering all of the possibilities of why that club has perhaps been an all-male club up until now, and being willing to consider all of those possibilities. Maybe they just haven't figured out a way to welcome their first woman into their club. So what an amazing opportunity for you to introduce them into diversifying their club. So I hope that it goes really well for you, and I hope that you can bring some fresh leadership and some fresh perspective to that club. But I think stay focused on what you have to offer and the asset that you are to their work.
Coming in. So Jenny, I've got a question from an audience member asking how your club works to juggle female members with children.
I mean, I think it's the same way that we juggle male members with children. So I think that having a club that, especially if we're looking at clubs that have a lot of younger professionals or younger members that still have young families, is making sure that, you know, we're gracious about that. I can tell you my own club is very family friendly. We often have many children who are attending meetings, attending events, and we try to even offer service projects that, you know, a lot of our service projects would readily be available for a child to participate, to attend with their parents. So I know my children have participated in roadside trash pickup. They've done, you know, of course, the yard work projects. And, you know, my children, I'm fortunate as well to be in a district that has welcomed my children into the district. And I think that I probably wouldn't be able to be as involved if it would be odd for me to have my small children with me. So my children are, my youngest child and I ended up, we were welcoming people at our district conference a couple of years ago, working the welcome table together. So I think just being as family friendly as possible, and beyond just saying, here's this event, it's okay if your kids come, but being intentional and planning events that, would include people with children, would include children or grandchildren. Because we also have members in our club whose children are grown, but they often have their grandchildren with them. So being really open to that. But I don't think that necessarily should be just a female member issue. I think that being more accommodating to parents in general, and making sure that we're pulling all of those people in and offering experiences where people can include their children.
What would you think of forming an e-club of ex-Rotaractors now living in different countries or cities and being young professionals?
Did you say forming an e-club with people that are not physically together?
Ex-Rotaractors, yes, of people who are...
Okay. I think that's a fantastic idea. I've actually, in my district, we've been kicking that idea around of how we could support something like that. I think it's an amazing idea, and what a way to stay connected, because, Rotary is not about geography necessarily anymore. Really, we have this capacity, and one thing we've learned in the past couple of months is that there's nothing that's really going to stop us from staying connected and from doing good work through those connections. So I think that's an amazing idea. I know in my district, we've been talking even about beyond just Rotaractors or Rotary program alum. My club happens to be located in a university town. So we have a large university where our club is. So we often have college students who join our club, join our Rotary club, and they, of course, get a job and might move away. And so there are folks who, we hope that they'll find a Rotary club that they can be connected to and get the experience that they want and need once they land, wherever they land professionally, but have really thought about how we can keep those folks connected. So I think an e-club that transcends those geographic boundaries is a fantastic idea.
Jenny, how can the keepers of club traditions pass them on without discouraging newer members?
I think, that's an interesting thing to think about, that institutional knowledge that exists within Rotary clubs. I know in my own club, of course, keeping the history of our club and why it is the way that it is, and why we very intentionally build a club with a lot of things going on, is really taking a look at those traditions and seeing, are they still relevant to your members today? Or maybe they're still relevant, but they need to be changed just a little bit in the way that we carry them on. So I think, really examining objectively and what value do those traditions bring to our organization, and, do they still need to exist the way that they've always existed? For example, I think, modifying, there's been a lot of discussion about, how often do clubs meet, or at least in the conversations I'm in, how often do clubs meet? How often do they need to meet? How often should they meet? And I think having those conversations in response to what your members need and want, and what their goals are, and what the overall vision of your membership is. And I think fitting those into there is really important. But I also think that there's a real place for people with a lot of institutional knowledge. Sometimes when, if I'm new to an organization or new to a setting or new to a situation, I might look at something and say, why do we do it like this? This doesn't make sense to me. But it takes someone who maybe was there at the ground level, or maybe someone who's there that has a lot of institutional knowledge to explain, this is the purpose of this and this is why. So I think it's about having those conversations, but being willing to have those conversations from all directions. But also just being open that, sometimes I've said earlier that I think Rotary clubs belong to your community. And so I think, making sure that we're keeping up with our community and that we are serving in the way that our community needs us to is an important step when we look at those traditions and conversations about tradition.
Very good. So as a last question, it's our understanding you are serving as your district's membership chair. Yeah. How do you help clubs improve their diversity?
So I think this is a priority for all clubs and all districts, because I don't think that when we think about diversity, equity, and inclusion, I don't think that those things are events that happen, right? We don't just say, okay, we're diverse, okay, we're inclusive. Those things are processes that should never stop, right? Those things should always be moving and adapting as the world changes, as we learn better. I know even in my own club or in my own district, things that had never occurred to me because, maybe I was blinded a little bit by my own privilege or my own experiences. And I didn't necessarily notice that, and very unintentionally, but didn't notice maybe that there was an opportunity for us to be a little more inclusive, or that we were offering a certain experience, or we were had a certain process that maybe limited accessibility to what we were offering. So I think the first thing is just reminding clubs and giving clubs the tools to constantly be examining and doing kind of self-checks almost on how they're doing, and listening to the experts, inviting people in and listening to them. And it's hard when you've done something the same way for a long time and you believe in it and you think you're doing it well, to take the feedback that, you could probably be doing this differently. You might have been inadvertently having this barrier all this time. And so being able to take that feedback and pivot and be willing to adapt is an important first step. And I think for me, I'm still a little new in my role as our district's membership chair, is just learning all the tools and learning all the ways to build those conversations. And that's not something that I'm necessarily an expert at. I'm constantly learning. So I hope that I reflect I hope that I reflect to the clubs that I support and to the membership chairs that I support that we should always be learning. We should always be willing to adapt and always be willing to take a look at what we're doing and consider that maybe we should do things differently.
Jenny, as always, there are more questions than we have time for. But thank you for an outstanding presentation. And now for the next part of today's program, I'll turn it back to Rotary International Director, Peter Kyle.
Thank you, Pete. I'm very happy to be sharing hosting duties today with past District Governor Vanessa Irvin, who served District 7730 in the 2014-2015 Rotary year. Vanessa is a member of the Rotary Club of Jacksonville, that's North Carolina, not Florida, and has served in numerous positions at the club, district, and zone levels. Her skills are multifaceted, as she has held leadership positions in public image, supporting the Rotary Foundation, and as a trainer. She demonstrates her passion for healthier communities worldwide through global grants and has participated in projects to establish solar water systems in Guyana, constructed a junior high school in Ghana, and established a dialysis center in India. She also led a vocational training team of medical and healthcare professionals to train staff in India on kidney disease. She is a major donor and a Paul Harris Society and Bequest Society member. Vanessa is the president CEO of Carobel Incorporated, a non-profit healthcare provider dedicated to providing 24-hour high-quality care and responsive services for children and adults with diagnosed intellectual developmental disabilities. She was selected by Becker Hospital Review as one of the 50 influential African-American healthcare leaders in the nation. She has served her community as chair and board member of the local hospital and as a trustee for the American Hospital Association. A true advocate for healthcare, he has served on various national and state healthcare committees. Vanessa holds a bachelor's degree from the University of New Mexico and an MBA, a rehabilitation administration degree from the University of San Francisco. On a personal note, Vanessa has a beautiful voice and leads our interfaith service every year at our Zone Summit. Welcome, Vanessa.
Thank you, Peter. It's great to be here as part of this incredible seminar series. Jenny, wow, what a wonderful presentation. You have allowed us to see some things we have never seen before. And finding what gives us joy is great advice, not just for Rotarians, but for all of us. People in our community need us, and as Rotarians, we serve them. But what we have found is that by serving our communities and the people who live in them, we gain so much. It's more than just feeling good about making a difference, and we do enjoy that. It's making the object of Rotary, the development of acquaintances, as an opportunity for service. And as we learn more about the people in our community, we began to understand how we are more alike than we are different. We all want clean water, enough food, being able to provide education and other opportunities for our children, health, peace. Rotary is actively involved globally in all of these areas because we know that unrest, disease, and war often resolve around the lack of these. If you're not a Rotarian, we invite you to join with us to make a difference in our communities, both local and global. Let's help others find their happy. And along the way, we'll find our Rotary happy. We want you to leave these sessions informed, uplifted, and motivated. But we also want you to take action. So we suggest the following. Please take note of the contact information on each of the slides. First, contact PDG Peter Dora to find out more information about the Rotary Action Group, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. This action group is in the process of being created, and we're looking for great people to get involved. Second, as part of this series, we are supporting the Rotary Action Group on family safety. Please consider making a donation or getting involved. Contact information can be seen on your screen. Third, not a Rotarian? Contact PDG Cindy Dora, Chair of the Infinite Possibility Initiatives, or reach out to a local Rotary Club to find out more. We need you. But more importantly, your communities need you. Fourth, focus on your Rotary happy. You can't change what's going on around you until you start changing what's going on within you. Rotarians, we connect, we mentor, we learn, we empower, we serve, we are people of action. Join us. Thank you. And it is my pleasure to turn it over to PDG Cindy Dora, Chair of Infinite Possibilities.
Thank you so much, Vanessa, my dear sweet sister, and Peter Kyle. We appreciate you so much for being here. It means a great deal to us in District 6960, and likewise, we are so proud to represent Zone 33 and 34. A big hug. I'm sure many of you have recalled that there have been times you've been in a position where you've looked at where you're at in your Rotary walk and you've not quite felt like it was what you anticipated. It could be better. It could be more engaging. It could just be more of what your expectations are to be a Rotarian. Jenny Stotts, there aren't enough words to tell you how great your message was, how on point, and how much we appreciate your taking the time to be with us today. Outstanding message, and we thank you from the bottoms of our heart. Only Each of us is only one decision away from making a major change in our lives for the good. And we appreciate that you've really taken the time to send that message home to each and every one of us. That's so extremely important. And the entire issue, the point of the series that we've been ongoing is to help people affect positive change, because Rotarians are people of actions. Our intent is to challenge each and every one of you watching today that's on a journey, and we're hoping that our message of diversity, equity, and inclusion will touch your hearts and help you recognize how significant and important that is in our Rotary walk every day. If we don't emulate our community and we don't represent the people in our community, then I think we're failing our community. So please look within and see if you can feel that you should make more of a difference. Our next series is scheduled for Friday, September the 25th at 1 p.m. We are so thrilled and honored to have a dynamic Rotarian, past Rotary International Vice President Jean Roars with us. Dean is, I have to tell you, when I met her for the first time, she is one of those leaders that just really walks the talk. But she'll share her leadership experience in Rotary. She'll share her vision and her practicality and leadership style. So we anticipate an outstanding presentation from Dean, as she will motivate and encourage you to seek the highest heights in your Rotary walk. Be on the lookout for upcoming registration information, and please register early. But also make note on your calendars in 2020 that we have an extra special grand finale coming up on October the 30th. We are so excited to be able to showcase our guest speaker, and we hope that each of you will take the time to be here to help us finish the 2020 series of Infinite Possibilities. But finally, please also be aware that our 2021 series will be starting, Infinite Possibilities, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. It'll launch in January 2021 and run through April 2021. So stay tuned for more information on that. Again, on behalf of District 6960 and Zones 33 and 34, we thank you for joining us. For your convenience, on your screen, you will see there is a site available for you to go, as each of our programs have been pre-recorded. So please take the time, write down these sites, join us, and we look forward to seeing each and every one of you in September. Infinite Possibilities, Women in Rotary. Thank you so much.